everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I am super excited to be talking about authors and books that have been a huge influence in my own writing. There's so many books for me to share with you today. What day is it? It's not hump day, it's book day. Let's just jump right in. So as an author, I often get the question, what authors do you read? Is there a book that's influenced you quite a lot in your writing? What inspired your book? Is it something that you've read before? Who are your favorite authors? Who are your favorite authors? Who are your favorite authors? I get that quite a lot. So I thought I would just kind of answer that in this video. So the very first book that I can say without a doubt has been a huge influence in my writing, in my current writing is, are you ready for this? I'm sure all of you already just know, because if you know me, you just know. That's right, A Court of Thorns and Roses, and A Court of Mist and Fury, and A Court of Wings and Ruin, and A Court of everything else, because there are a few books in that series. This book has been super influential to me when it comes to writing retellings, making some more mature decisions in my writing process. I know that there are a lot of people who don't like this book. Totally respect that, but for me, Sarah J. Maas just opened a whole new world to writing. Cue the Aladdin music. Yeah, let's not go on that carpet ride. But reading about Feyre, Rhys, Tamlin, all of them, it really made me look at writing in a really different way. And I just really appreciated the inspiration that her book series gave me in writing my own, like Blinding Night. This book wouldn't exist without this book, plain and simple. Now, way back in my more formidable years, really wasn't that long ago, but it feels like it, there was a book series called Shiver. And Maggie Stiefvater is an amazing writer. Let me just say, she is an amazing writer. I ate up all 3 of her books in this series. I was really obsessed with this book and this book series. I remember going to the bookstore while I was at church camp, like working at church camp during an evening one night, because I was just desperate to get the second book. I needed to know what happened. You know, like that's just, I think everyone goes through that when they love a book series a lot, and I loved this book. When I got the 3rd book, I cried the whole time because I was so sad to let these characters go. And when I finished, this is when I knew I wanted to be a writer. I knew without a doubt in my mind I wanted to be a writer because of this series. I wanted to write something as amazing as Shiver. And I don't know if I've reached that pinnacle yet, but here's to hoping. Now, an author that has really inspired me ever since I was a teenager has been Sarah Dessen. I must have a thing for Sarahs. This like must be a trend, Sarah's. I would say one of my favorite books is called The Truth About Forever, Just Listen, and This Lullaby. Sarah Dessen actually really inspired me as more of a YA contemporary author. Without her, this book actually wouldn't be in existence. So Sarah Dessen has been a huge influence and inspiration in my growing, I want to be an author someday, but can I make it phase. Thanks, Sarah, because without you, I wouldn't be doing this. Now, when it came to writing Between the Sea and Stars, this book was actually a huge help in kind of creating and knowing how to write about mermaids and the underwater world and how humans can interact with that underwater world. Mermaid is definitely the story that you would want to read if you were seeking a more truer to the tale. Caroline's writing is actually really beautiful, very, very eloquent, very descriptive. It was definitely a huge help in writing Between the Sea and Stars. Now with this book, I am going way back. Probably back to when I was 13 or 14 years old. Embarrassing story. I discovered my mom's romance novels, and I was way too young to be reading those books. Upon discovering this about me, my mother then told me if I was going to read romance, I needed to start with Danielle Steele. And boy, did I gobble up those books like you wouldn't believe. When I went to my local library, I went to the Danielle Steele section to see what else I could read. Now this book, The Ring, is my all-time favorite Danielle Steele book. It's an old book. I mean, I got this at a thrift store. Clearly $1.50, but it was the best $1.50 I've ever spent in my entire life. This was published in 1980. I wasn't even born yet. But The Ring is actually a very devastatingly beautiful but sad but really wonderful story. Now the last book, I give you permission to judge me, but no, I can't even say but. You can just go ahead and judge me. Yes, Twilight. Twilight is actually the last book that I would say was a huge influence and inspiration in my writing. My copy is like falling apart. I have a very old copy. So this book actually was published in 2005. So I was a sophomore, junior in high school when this book came out. I read this thing like a bajillion times. And it was actually one of the first books that I ever read that was written in first person. And I know you're like, well, what books were you reading? What books was I reading? Obviously, Daniel Steele. Like, what else? Twilight was actually one of the very first person YA books, like in a real YA book that really just like opened the door. Like the light bulb in Chantal's head just went, oh, I could be a writer. And it wasn't until Maggie that I was like, oh, I can be a writer. So while this book has a lot of negative stigma because of the movies, because let's be honest, the movies were kind of corroboree, the books actually were amazingly enticing to me as a young adult. Again, I was like 15, 16 years old when this book came out, and I read this so many times. I carried this book like it was a limb. I was connected to this book. So without this book, I honestly wouldn't have written the stories that I did before I wrote my novels. I wouldn't have met the amazing people that I met. I met a lot of really great, wonderful people because of this book and the community that it created for me and other different fans. I've always aspired to being a sort of like Stephanie Meyer without being like really upset that a book leaked and then just not publishing that book because they just wanted to hold it hostage, and I'm not bitter about that at all. I was a fan of Twilight, New Moon, and Eclipse because to me, those books were the trilogy. And then Breaking Dawn came out, and I don't know what happened. All right, everyone, so that's it for my authors and books that have inspired me and influenced me in my most current writings. If any of those were your favorites, let me know. And if you have any books that you think that I would enjoy, let me know in the comment section below. And until next time, I'll catch you later.